Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Technically Something, the show where we talk about technology, creativity, tutorials, and gaming. I'm your host, Kevin Allen, and today in this video I want to talk to you about double exposures, something that I think is a win-win in Photoshop because, one, they look awesome, and two, they're relatively easy to do. So what is a double exposure? Double exposures are things kind of like this. Or like this. And the common thing between them is that you have two photos, almost like two layers, and one is blending with the other, whether it's on the lighter sections or the darker sections. And we can do that through blending modes. So I'm going to jump straight into it. Let's see how we can make our first double exposure. See you there. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. First thing we're going to do is make sure that Photoshop is open. Next, we're going to unsplash.com, and for the purposes of this video, I've prepared and found a few images that I think would work very well for a few different examples. So the first one that we'll be working on will be this one. And the reason that I chose this is because it's A, black and white, but B, since it's surrounded by black and all we see is our person's face, there's going to be some cool effects that happen. I'm going to show you that. So zoom in once you found your image, so click on it, get our nice larger version. I'm going to right click, copy, alt tab over to Photoshop, then I'm going to hit Control N for a new file, and if we copied the image first, it should say clipboard with the size of our image. I'm just going to change this to 300 to make sure that everything else we put in is high quality. Okay, so once that's all finished, we click OK and Control V. Alright, so layer 1, I'm going to double click and call this figure. Alright, now let's go back to Unsplash, Alt Tab, and this is where you would find your background. So for me, I would say stick to either, I mean, you could do whatever you want, but I choose to do lots of mountains and landscapes or really cool pictures of cities, mostly in the evening or at night, so that you get all of those lights and those high contrast sort of situations. So what I'm going to do first, I think, let's try the city. So I'm going to zoom in on it, wait for it to get sharp, right click, copy image, alt tab to Photoshop, Control V, call this layer city. Alright, now this is going to be very easy because like I said, for the first photo it's all black and white. So just to show you what double exposure looks like, I figured this was a great place to start because it all has to deal with what's dark and what's light. That's how we're going to be blending the layers together. So on the city layer, I'm going to go to our drop down for all of the blending modes. I'm going to select basically one of the group from the lighten section. I think I might actually just do lighten. Alright, so immediately this is what a double exposure is in essence. It exposes on all the dark portions of this photo. However, it doesn't look too good, right? We've lost a lot of her face. So what we can do is create a mask on our layer. So I'm going to click Add Layer Mask. Now we have a clear layer mask. So we have the white here. We're going to grab our brush. Make sure that it is either a soft round, hard round. You just want to make sure that you have the kind of brush that you would like to use. And now, on the mask, I'm going to paint black over portions that I don't want to necessarily be disappeared or double exposed. This will help define that a little bit better. Gives different sort of ideas and features. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but it's something that you can play around with. Now, that's just one example. so I'm going to go ahead and save this, and I'll call this exposure example 1. Okay. So I do have another version though. So say you have something with a little bit more color. So what we're going to do here, make sure it's the large version, right click, copy, Alt Tab, Control N. Just make sure that the resolution is 300 and Control V. All right, so we have our person here. So if I did the same thing as before, back and copy my city, paste it, if I go down to lighten, almost all of her is obscured. And this is why not every blending mode works the same way in every single instance. So you have to try a couple different things, but what we can do in this version is use the magic wand, which can be located here on the toolbar, or as you can see, you can hit W as the shortcut. Once we have this, this is going to be a game of selecting it with the right tolerance up here. When I click here, I think 25 might be just right. Let's see. All right, so we have most of the outline here pretty well done. And as it gets up to the hair and even this very slightly different shade of background, it's not selecting it, but we can hold Shift. See how this plus appears on the magic wand? That means that we can click and add more to our selection. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go down here, hold Shift, and click. So we have more or less our person selected. You can go in closer and try and get these other sections manually if you would like, but at the end of the day, we're just going to be masking this, so you can always go back and edit as much as you need. But this is all I'm looking for now. So I'm going to go to our figure, and I'm going to mask the figure. Now, since I selected the outside of our person first, when I hit mask, that told Photoshop to mask everything but my selection. That's how it always works. So I ended up making the person disappear and the background stayed. If you ever want to reverse your mask really quickly, you just make sure it's highlighted, so you click on it and hit Control I to invert the selection. Easy as that. So now our background is masked out, and what we can do is actually duplicate this mask up to the background that we were trying to double expose before. And it's really easy to do this. You hold Alt on your keyboard and then click and drag the mask up to the layer you want and let go. Now we've duplicated the mask of our figure onto the background, and the reason I did that is so that it only shows on her. It doesn't show on the background or anywhere else. And now we can play with different blending modes. Make sure your layer is selected on the picture. Now we can go through and see what blending mode complements our photo the best. I think stick with screen. So what if we're having varying results from this? What if like the whole face is hidden and I don't get much of a good result from masking it either? So what you can do next is click on the figure layer. You're going to make an adjustment layer. And I would start with curves or levels. I'm going to choose curves. And remember, just like in the last video, we hold Alt to anchor this adjustment layer to the figure. Okay, it'll always anchor to the layer just beneath it. Now, on curves, I'm going to mess with some of these to see if I can't get different results. So see, the brighter it goes, the more the city only shows up in her shadow. So we can try and brighten up some portions here. And I'm going to make another adjustment layer. So I'm going to select the figure layer again, go to my adjustments, use brightness and contrast. So here I can up the contrast as well as the brightness if I want to, but not necessarily the look I'm going for. then one other way we could go, like I said before, is levels. And under levels, we can take darker parts and influence them, light, or all of the midtones, everything in between. I think that looks pretty cool. Say all of the color isn't working in your favor, you can go to the very top and create a adjustment layer for color balance. You can shift the colors to be in any direction that you would like. I mean, what this boils down to is that adjustment layers are a great way to experiment with your photo while still not making any damaging changes, like anything that's permanent. You can get it to be wherever you want and however you want it to look. Last but not least, if that background, say if you want to add a background to your image, you could always go back to Unsplash, copy a new image, go back. You could even try pasting something in the background. Now, if it comes out too small, just remember, Control T to transform. You'll get this box, and you can make the image as large as you want, then hit Enter to commit the change. So there's a couple fun ways to mess around with double exposures. And also, just remember that maybe you don't even like the city. So another thing you could do is put this on top, duplicate the mask, hold Alt, and drag that mask up there, hide your previous one, and then just see what this layer looks like with certain blending modes. You might get different effects, and you might actually be pleased with what those look like. Alright everyone, so in essence that's it. Really, it's just getting two photos, masking as you need, and using adjustment layers to make sure everything's right, and blending the images together with blending modes. If you have any questions or comments, please be sure to leave those down below. I will get back to you as soon as I see them. Like the video, comment, subscribe. Remember, everything counts, and that really helps this channel. Until next time, my name's Kevin Allen, and this was Technically Something. See you guys later.